Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar, the second in the Demystifying Jobs series. This is Demystifying Jobs. What are employers actually looking for? And this webinar is part of the UniMythsBusted campaign run in collaboration between University Alliance and UCAS, with support from Uni Taster Days, the Careers People, Push, and the Sixth Form Colleges Association. Now, I'm delighted to have with me today two brilliant speakers, Adriana Curca from the CBI Economics and Steve Layton from Royce. I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourselves, Adriana and Steve. So, Adriana, perhaps we'll come to you first.
Thank you, and thanks very much for inviting me today. Yes, I head up the CBI Economics team here at the CBI, which is our consultancy division. And we've worked with the University Alliance last year in serving UK employers to understand what they're looking for in graduates. So I'm here today to talk about the findings from this research.
So you hopefully have some hard data that will help us answer the question, what are employers actually looking for? And Steve, you are an employer, so do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, and thank you for this. Yes, Steve Layton, Head of Engineering Operations at Rolls-Royce.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Rolls-Royce, obviously one of the kind of the most well-known brands probably as an employer in the country. So we're really delighted to have you here with us today. So, Adriana, shall we dive right in? I think that we have some slides from showing some of the findings from your report that you are going to take us through. So, Adriana, this is kind of the main graph from the report you published last year. What are the top three factors employers consider most important when recruiting graduates? Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing on this slide?
Yes, absolutely. So I think just to kind of set the context, so we've surveyed a large number of employers across a range of sectors and regions in the UK to understand how they perceive the kind of the graduate workforce and what they're looking for when hiring graduates. And this is, I think, the top question, as you say, which is giving us a really good picture for what they're looking for. So this slide shows the top three factors that employers rated as most important when hiring graduates. And the first one is enthusiasm and a positive attitude towards the role, with nearly 2/3 of respondents selecting this as their top factor. The second one is the ability to demonstrate a range of skills and competencies beyond academic knowledge, with more than half of employers also selecting this as their top factor. And this is followed then by the subject studied and its relevance to the role and the business, with also more than half of employers selecting this. Another factor that was important to employers, mentioned by over 40% of them, is relevant work experience, and that could be things like industry placements. But I think one of the things that really comes across as well from this data is that notably only a small proportion of employers consider the grade obtained as important, and only 8% value the type of institution that the graduate attended. So that clearly shows actually the kind of the top factors versus those lowest factors. That comparison shows that employers are essentially looking for well-rounded, motivated candidates who can demonstrate relevant skills and experiences as well, rather than just focusing narrowly on academic credentials.
And can we just dive in a little bit to that skills and competencies other than academic knowledge or proficiency? Because I think I'm right in thinking that the employers you were looking at here all recruit graduates. So it's not that they're saying that, you know, their university experience isn't important, but perhaps not necessarily the skills you would expect from university are the ones that they're looking for. So can you talk a little bit about what's meant by skills and competencies other than academic knowledge?
Absolutely. So employers clearly want to see a broader range of attributes, and that includes soft skills like communication. Problem solving is a really important one, adaptability to different situations, time management, teamwork. And those are all skills that you do develop throughout university in different ways. So that just shows that it goes sort of beyond the academic knowledge itself. It's more about a broader skill set and how you actually apply yourself in a real world setting and not just in the academic environment.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. So let's dive a little bit deeper perhaps into some of these findings. And we move to the next slide. This kind of looks a little bit more in depth at some of those factors. Is that right?
Yes, so the previous one was asking employers to essentially select their top 3 most important factors and essentially rank them, whereas this focuses on each of these factors individually and how important they are. So ranking them from not very important or somewhat important all the way through to very important. And then we have a net balance, which essentially shows the difference between those who rated those factors as very important versus those who rated them as unimportant. So essentially, it's more of a deep dive, and it adds a bit more nuance. But they very much reinforce the findings that we saw in the previous slide. So when looking at these individual factors in isolation, the top factor does remain the graduate's ability to demonstrate that broad range of skills and competencies beyond the academic knowledge. So we have a net balance of plus 90%, meaning that far more employers rated it as important than as unimportant. So that broad range of skills and competencies remains key to employers. And then the next one here is the relevant work and project experience, with a net balance of plus 77%. So it's, again, quite a significant number of employers rating it as extremely important. And that's followed then by the subject studied. And even extracurricular achievements and grades as well are also viewed positively in this context, with again, more employers viewing them as really important. On the other hand, again, reinforcing the previous findings, the type of institution attended, whether it was highly selective, for example, has a net balance of minus 30%. That means that this is one of the least valued attributes overall. So there are significantly more employers who see it as unimportant than they do as important. So the takeaway here is more about that individual capability and that real world experience, and that consistently trumps the kind of the university factors and the institutional prestige.
And I am interested in these extracurricular achievements and grades, because they appeared less important in the previous graph, but they, when asked to kind of rate them individually, they perhaps come out as more important. Is that right?
Yes, so I think so grades are slightly more important than slide 1 suggested, which is a really good observation. So they don't prioritize grades, but when rating each factor individually, they do say that it's somewhat more important. But I think what that does show is essentially, of course, grades still matter, and particularly in certain subject areas as well, it matters more. But they are part of a broader picture. They're not the be all and end all, essentially.
Brilliant, thank you. So let's move on. So you talked about the quite low proportion of employers who value the particular university that a student attended, and I think this looks at that in a little bit more detail. Is that right? Can you tell us what we're seeing here?
Yes, so this slide shows how employers rated different university types or university characteristics as well in terms of importance. So we're moving from the kind of the individual's factors to the university. And what it does show is that employers don't place much weight actually on the university type alone. So instead what stands out is the specialism and the relevance of the university department, with a net balance here of plus 35% again of employers considering it important. But among university types, it was interesting to see that professional and technical universities are valued more highly, with 42% of employers rating them positively, and a net balance of plus 20%. So more employers seeing them as important than unimportant. So in contrast as well, highly selective universities had a net balance of minus 20%. And that just reinforces the message that the practical career-focused education is seen as more useful to employers than the traditional sort of prestige of the university.
And for those who don't know, could you just share the definitions that you used of those different university types?
Sure. So highly selective universities, that generally refers to those with the most competitive entry requirements, like Oxbridge or other Russell Group institutions. Professional and technical universities, on the other hand, are those with that stronger emphasis on applied learning and those career-oriented courses as well. Often they have closer links to industry and also have more work-based learning as well.
And we should all of this come with the caveat, right, that only a very small proportion of employers actually said any of this was important at all. Is that correct?
Exactly. So it is very much within that smaller subset of businesses where we asked them to compare, but the majority of them said that actually the type of university that you went to doesn't really matter that much at all. But I think the bottom line is that essentially what matters to employers is that they want graduates who can hit the ground running. They essentially value that broader set of skills, that practical experience that they might already have, and that doesn't necessarily have to be from working within the industry, but also from the types of projects that they work on and the application of those projects in real world settings. And I think professional and technical universities do tend to offer that practical learning and those placements and those stronger links to industry, and therefore it is possible that their students do often come out more job ready, whereas on the other hand, highly selective universities, they're still respected, but it's that real world readiness that employers prize the most.
I did note in the report a point that employers say often graduates from the more selective universities are more confident in interview, perhaps. So it sort of balances out, maybe.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, let's move on. So we've discussed already that having some vocational experience as part of a degree is quite important to employers. And I think this graph essentially reinforces that. Is that right?
Yes, so this shows essentially how graduates with vocational experience perform at different stages of recruitment. So from an employer's perspective. Vocational experience does seem to make a clear and measurable difference here. So at the interview stage, 85% of employers said it improves graduate performance, with 45% seeing it as a significant improvement. It also boosts performance in applications, so not just at the interview stage, but also performance in interviews, but also in the job application itself, with a higher likelihood of receiving a job offer, and also better on the job competence as well. And even at the assessment stage, 55% of employers saw improved outcomes as well from vocational experience. So it really does make a difference. And the form that that vocational experience takes appears less important as well than the real world sort of preparation and the confidence as well that it gives students. So whether that's placements, internships, or practical projects, they're all very valuable in employers' eyes.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. And I think this is your final slide. No, yes, final slide. Tell us about this one.
So this one highlights which factors employers said most influence success at the interview stage, which is often the final hurdle. So at the interview stage, communication and interpersonal skills seem to dominate, with 84% of employers citing it as the most critical factor. Next comes the ability to answer competency-based questions as well about work experience, with 75% also seeing it as a critical factor. And also non-academic competencies were really important as well. Interestingly, only half of employers prioritize the ability to talk about academic work. So again, that kind of reinforces some of the earlier message, and that consistent trend really across the research, which is success isn't just about the technical know-how. It's about how well candidates communicate, connect with a role, and present themselves, and that confidence as well is really important.
Yeah, so those kind of transferable skills coming through really strongly again, right? So what could a careers advisor take from all of this? How might you advise your students when they're thinking about their university choices?
I think the key takeaway really is, career advisors should be encouraging students to build those wider skill sets and practice their communication skills as well, whether that's from presenting in class, taking part in group work as well, doing mock interviews, supporting them as well in reflecting on their experience, whether they're academic or not. I think quite often students struggle to kind of get those across and to really see their relevance to employers, and just helping them to articulate what they've learned and how that applies. So these are the things that will help them stand out to employers, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Adriana. This is a really fascinating study. And can you remind us again what it's called, just in case anyone wants to go away and look it up for themselves?
I need to title, so bear with
That's
me.
okay.
So the report is called "To What Degree: Understanding What UK Businesses Look For in Graduates," and it was published about a year ago in August 2024.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Well, Steve, let's come to you as an employer. I hope you're not about to say, no, none of that applies to me at all. Does this look familiar to you?
It does. It very much does resonate. I guess the two items I'll pull out is really pleased to see enthusiasm and positive attitude being highly valued by employers. I think 68% value that as a key characteristic, and that's really important to Rolls-Royce. The graduates we employ will stay with us for a long time. And it's really important we focus on that as part of the recruitment process from the outset. I guess the second one is the vocational experience, and experience is really key. Bringing that into the recruitment process, because we're very keen to understand how potential future employees can demonstrate their skills and competence. So, for example, can you tell me about a time when you tried to resolve a complex problem? And it's very good when you can pull on experience to do that, as well as talk through a framework or a model that you've learned about at university. So yeah, the study and results very, very much resonate with me. Yeah.
Being able to prepare, I think Adriana's advice about preparing those examples, those tell me about a time when questions, is if as you go through university, you're able to kind of reflect and take note. Oh, I think I just solved a complex problem. That might come in handy in a future job interview. That's probably quite a good thing to be doing, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I always say, there's no experience actually that is bad experience. People often reflect, don't they? I know I've done in the past, with mistakes, say that have been made. Hopefully small mistakes, but nevertheless, reflecting and learning from those mistakes actually is good experience. And if you can bring examples to an assessment day or an interview, it's good things to have in your portfolio.
There are two more things I'd really like to touch on with you, Steve, because from University Alliance research that we've done into university applicants and the sorts of things they're considering, we know that there is quite a lot of anxiety around, or not anxiety, but a great deal of thought goes into what will my university choice mean for my future career, and what will my subject choice mean for my future career. And I think that the findings show that perhaps depending on the career you want, some of those things might matter more or less. And in fact, perhaps university choice doesn't matter that much at all. When you recruit at Rolls-Royce, do you look at university choice, and how important is subject choice as well?
I think university choice is less important. I think subject choice is more important to us. Showing interest and relevance in a subject which Rolls-Royce are very much connected to is really important. I think the university choice, is really more important to the individual. You select a university based maybe on location, course content, learning style. There's a whole range of factors go into that, and it's really important to the individual that they're successful. And so I think those factors are probably more important to the individual, less important to the employer.
Yeah. On subject, I mean, you in your department of engineering, I imagine it's very important that an engineering or engineering adjacent degree has been studied. Are there roles within Rolls-Royce where you think perhaps that's less important, or where students with experience in a wide range of subjects could take on a position?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, the subject is important to us. Probably over the years, we've moved away from being specific. So, many years ago, say in engineering, we would have looked for a degree in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, manufacturing engineering. Whereas today, excuse me, we'd look for a STEM-based related degree, which because we are looking for that agile person that can move around and operate across a range of subjects. The world and our customers are changing, and their needs are changing. There's things like sustainability now. There's defense security, energy security. Regulations are changing. The world's becoming more digital. So therefore, the attributes and characteristics in people that we look for is also changing. Along with those very specific subject needs, we're also looking for people that can think more holistically, that look at systems engineering, that can look at the bigger picture, not just individual subjects.
Brilliant. That's something we've actually heard from other speakers throughout this webinar series as well, is how the world is changing and how adaptability is becoming more important. Okay, so Steve, could I ask you to give your kind of advice to any careers advisor who's supporting students to apply for university? How would you advise them to help their students make sure they're really prepared, they're making the right choices to put themselves in a strong position to gain a position with an employer like you?
Yes, it's a great question, that is. It's really important that we give students good career advice. Teachers, career advisors are really influential. They're as influential, in fact, as family, as parents, guardians, etc. It's not easy, actually, I don't think, within schools today, because not all schools and academic institutions have got career advisors. Teachers are very busy, aren't they, with the standard sort of school timetable and marking and all that sort of thing. It's quite hard, actually, to find time for this, but we must do it. We must do it together, actually, industry and academia together. Teachers, career advisors can reach out. There's resources out there to help. I think most sort of medium, large size companies now offer outreach teams to come out to schools, etc., to talk about careers and help with that transition from academia, I guess, into industry. I know Rolls-Royce, we have a very lot. We're privileged. We've got a very large STEM team that go out and talk with schools and students around that transition. And one of the things we find is, we've got a lot of apprentices, we've got a lot of graduates, and we send those early career individuals out to schools. And that's proving, really fruitful, because they're at a stage in their career where they can relate to the transition for students, and they can talk at the right level, they use the right language. And I know students have given us a lot of feedback that, please send your early career, because we just enjoy talking with them.
That's brilliant, because it's sort of aspirational yet realistic, isn't it? I think that's fantastic advice. I'm really sorry to say that's all we've got time for today. I feel like we could talk about this for hours and hours. But thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, Adriana. That was a really brilliant discussion, and I'm sure we'll be calling on you again for your advice. A reminder to those watching that this is the second in a series of 3, and the third one will be coming out on the 15th of September, and you can find that at UniMythsBusted.co.uk. Thank you very much.